Jabari for three and the win. Yeah! He got it!
To Murray. Here's Trey in the open court. Underneath Griffin. Got it! And the Hawks win! What a play by Atlanta! What a play by the Hawks! 124-122.
We're here to Field Rockets News. It's the Rockets Field podcast presented by Believe Network and sponsored by Bet Online. Of course, I'm your host, LaShawn Binkley. You can always find my written work over at Rockets on SI, part of Sports Illustrated. And you can find me on Twitter at Binkley Hoops. And of course, today we're talking about the breaking news. Jonathan Fagan of the Houston Chronicle just dropped that Rockets have reached a buyout agreement with AJ Griffin and his agent. Which pretty much means AJ Griffin will not be on the team for this upcoming season. We kind of saw this coming when we heard the news recently where AJ Griffin was considering stepping away from basketball, kind of figure out what he wanted to do next. So this was kind of the next logical step when we first heard that news that the Rockets and AJ Griffin would be trying to work out a deal so that he can focus on himself and figure out what he wanted to do going forward. And of course, another thing about this is the Rockets working out this buyout. They could have just stayed pat. They could have just let it play out, and then AJ Griffin wouldn't have got anything if he decided to retire. So the fact that they worked out a buyout, that is a good thing for, of course, the way the Rockets look around the league, and of course for AJ Griffin that he's still able to get some of his money that he would have lost out on if he would have just decided to retire instead. So of course, we're not going to speculate on why he's stepping away. He also missed some games last season for personal reasons. And again, don't want to speculate on what the reason was. The main thing, of course, you want to hopefully he's okay because that's more important than basketball. But for the Rockets, they do have to focus on the basketball part. When they made this trade this past draft, they traded away their number 43 pick as part of a 3-team trade with the Miami Heat and Atlanta Hawks. And they were, banking on the fact that AJ Griffin, even though he did struggle in the second season, that first season, he shot 39% from three-point range, one of the best shooters in the entire draft that season. And also, he showed some flashes of having some other parts of his offensive game, pull-up jumpers, able to get to the basket. Still struggle a little bit on defense, but of course, with him having more experience in the NBA, of course, most people thought he can improve on that. But then he went into the second season. He struggled with injuries. Like I mentioned before, he missed some games due to personal reasons. So he did not play many games at all in his second season. He only played 20 games after playing 72 games the first season and starting 12 of them, playing 20 minutes a game. Last season, he only played 8 minutes a game. Quinn Snyder and him just could not get on the same page, like I said, due to the injuries and him missing time for personal reasons. So that's kind of why he was available to begin with. And for the Rockets, yes, they did have the number 43 pick. They could have drafted someone and maybe stashed him in the G League. But I remember talking to Rafael Stone and asking him that question before we even got to the second round of the draft, because, of course, it was separated for the first time in 2 separate days. And he was just talking about how the roster is already kind of full, and they really don't want to bring in another young guy that they're going to have to put in the G League. They're going to have to get them up to speed. They want to bring in somebody that has some NBA experience, and that's why they kind of swung for the fence. It was a low-risk, high-reward type of move, bringing in AJ Griffin, even though he did struggle in 2023-2024 season. He still had the potential coming out of Duke. He was one of the highly regarded players. Also, kind of a fun fact: the Rockets pretty much early on in the draft process targeted him at that particular spot. He was the guy that they wanted to go with before Atlanta took him at number 16. Of course, the Rockets, a very good consolation prize, with Tari Eason, who we know turned out to be one of the best rookies of the entire draft. But it would have been something to have both players that the Rockets were targeting at that spot on the team. But now we know that AJ Griffin will not be on the Houston Rockets this upcoming season as he continues to contemplate what he wants to do, if he wants to even continue to play basketball after the Rockets and his team reached a buyout agreement. And again, for the Rockets, is also you move on to the basketball part of it. Now they have another slot that they have to fill, because when you go into training camp, which starts here in a couple of weeks, the roster are expanded to 20 players. So Now the Rockets can possibly bring in somebody else that they may have liked from the G League, another maybe a veteran that's out on the market that's still a free agent. Because as you see in this list right here, there are some names still available. You have players like Robert Covington, who's played sparingly over the last few years, who of course have some experience with the Rockets, and I don't think he'll be playing center this time around like he did the first time when they traded for him when James Harden was here during the whole COVID era. But he's a name to keep an eye on. You also have a Darius Baisley who played for Oklahoma City, kind of a wiry, forward type of player. Because I think if you're the Rockets, you need a player more of a shooting guard, small forward kind of combo guard, because the Rockets really don't have a lot of those on the roster. Because right now, I think you're pretty set at small forward. You have Tari Eason can play small forward. Of course, you still have Dylan Brooks. Now you have Cam Whitmore, who can kind of play shooting guard, small forward, but I think he's more of a small forward if you're looking at it. But I think the Rockets can use more combo type players that can play multiple positions. And of course, they would love to have somebody that has the shooting potential of AJ Griffin. But when you're looking at the free agent market right now, if you're still a free agent in late September, early October, you're not going to really find too many players that are knockdown shooters, because if they were, they probably wouldn't still be on the market. So that'll be something interesting to keep in mind when you're looking at the potential of who they can bring in. Now, of course, like I said, also with the Rockets, you have to figure out this pretty soon, because you have training camp coming up the first week of October. So you don't have a lot of time to kind of look around and try to figure out. And you have to imagine that the Rockets, as soon as we heard the news maybe a week or so ago, that they already kind of started looking around at players that they could possibly bring in. So I don't think that they were shocked by this news today. Of course, they probably already been working on this ever since the news broke initially about him considering stepping away from basketball. So I think the Rockets are probably already kind of ready on what they want to do coming up. Like I said, the Rockets were hoping that AJ Griffin can kind of fill in a slot that he did in his rookie season, and maybe it was just a change of coaching staff and philosophy last year with the injuries that caused him to only play 20 games like he did in his second season. But like I said earlier with the breaking news, he's not going to be probably on any NBA roster anytime soon. So the Rockets are going to kind of have to, take that next step and see exactly what they want to do this upcoming season. Now, like I said, we have training camp coming up here pretty soon. What I would like for everyone that's listening to this right now, let me know down in the comments. What do you think? Do you think the Rockets should have just trade or signed or drafted a player at number 43 and just hope that maybe they hit a home run with a late pick again, or were you fine with them trading that number 43 pick, considering that AJ Griffin probably had more potential than anybody that was still left at number 43? Because like I said, this will be the first time we'll be able to see everybody on the court coming up here pretty soon with training camp. But at the same time, AJ Griffin with his NBA experience, he probably wasn't going to find a lot of time, with the Rockets, especially early on this season, because the Rockets at the forward position are kind of already set on who's going to be playing and who's not going to be playing. And I don't think AJ Griffin was necessarily a guard. So I don't see him really playing backup to Jalen Green. He was more, like I said, more of a small forward. So he was probably going to be spending a lot of time in the G League anyway. But again, you were banking on his potential and not necessarily what he's going to bring to you at the beginning of the season, because you can never have too much shooting. Even with the Rockets bringing in Reed Shepherd, we know how much the Rockets have struggled shooting from the outside, especially three-point range, the last 3 or 4 seasons that they've been, near the bottom of the league pretty much every season. Even though they did improve last year and finished 23rd in three-point shooting, they still going to have to get a lot better if they want to make that jump to the playoffs this upcoming season. And they were hoping to, having a player like AJ Griffin who shot 39% his rookie season, they were hoping that maybe, hey, they struck some gold, and later on in the season, maybe if they're dealing with injuries, hey, he could just fill in. But now they're going to have to move on to another player. And of course, that also gives people that are currently on the roster, maybe towards the bottom of the the depth chart, they'll give them an opportunity to kind of step up. So we'll see exactly how all that plays out. We also should be getting a tour of the new facility before the season start. I definitely will be out at that, bringing you all the latest news from the new training facility that Rafael Stone said is a game changer as far as the way the Rockets, operate on a day in, day out basis. Of course, we've been seeing a lot of footage of players already working out at the new facility. So that'll be very interesting. I'll bring you all a video of that. And of course, since the training camp is in Houston, I will be out every single day at training camp and bringing you all the latest from the Houston Rockets training camp, any footage that I can definitely show. We'll be having podcasts, myself and Vader. We'll be having podcasts all throughout the entire week. So make sure you're definitely checking it out. And again, let me know down in the comment, what do you think of the situation? Do you think the Rockets should have just drafted someone at number 43, or were you fine with them taking the swing and seeing if they can hit a home run with a player with potential that struggled in his second season? Just let me know down in the comments, what do you think about this current situation? And as usual, I appreciate your support. And as usual, we appreciate everybody that checks out the show every single week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and like button, and make sure you check out the next episode of Rocket Fuel Podcast.